Thank you very much, Memamela, for that nice short video clip that you just played right there. I'm not sure if I'm audible to everyone, but good evening, colleagues. My name is Sipezenani, and I am the chairperson of the Black Management Young Professionals in the Free State. And this evening, we are discussing a subject that is very important in 2022, after everything that we have seen from the change and adaptation that we had to go through because of the lockdown of the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown regulations. So tonight we are discussing the role or the importance of literacy in the fourth industrial revolution. So this webinar that we are having tonight was not just inspired by the lockdowns that we've been having or the changes that we saw during the lockdowns that we had, and we had to adopt and adapt to using technology for almost each and every part of our lives. But it was also inspired by celebrating the achievements of the Free State province, because as the young professionals of the Free State, we haven't had time to sit with the Free State province and celebrate them for their achievements towards improving the education in the province and ensuring that they stay achieving the best results that they can. And yeah, today is also about not just being the people who are always complaining and always see faults every now and then about how everything is done within the education system or within driving issues of literacy in the province. So once again, good evening to each and every one of you colleagues. So tonight we have some very special visitors for this webinar. We have very important visitors who come from diverse environments and are going to be sharing a wealth of experience and knowledge with us tonight. And like I said, my name is Sipezenani, and we were supposed to have our national chairperson to just come and provide a word of support, but he is currently having a load shedding where he is. Another challenge that I think from tonight we will be able to leave this section having a solution for. He is currently experiencing load shedding. So tonight I think we should come up with a solution of dealing with load shedding using the fourth industrial revolution that we're in, which also needs electricity as well. But we'll talk about that as we go. But of utmost importance tonight is I would like to introduce the speakers or the visitors that we are having for tonight's panel discussion under celebrating or identifying and actually acknowledging the role of the fourth industrial revolution and literacy, or acknowledging literacy and its role in the fourth industrial revolution. Pardon that. Our first speaker here is Professor Wale Serote. Professor Wale Serote, let me just read his portfolio or profile for each and every one of you. He's a poet laureate of South Africa and a recipient of the Order of Ikamanga in silver. He was born in Sophiatown in Johannesburg, and he attended school in Alexandra. Professor Serote, because of the political conditions around him, led him to developing an interest in Black consciousness politics in South Africa. They led him to develop this consciousness in South Africa, and he joined the ANC in exile. I do not want to go further in reading his profile. It's a very long profile, and we have so little time for this session tonight. But Professor Wale Serote was also tasked by President Thabo Mbeki, or the government under President Thabo Mbeki, to establish a foundation or a monument that would be called the Freedom Park in Tshwane, and would be there to preserve the memory of our heroes and heroines in South Africa. That is it about Professor Serote, our poet laureate. And moving on to our next speaker now is one speaker that I hold dearly in my heart. Not to say I'm not holding other speakers dearly in my heart, but Dr. Pule Herbert Isaac Mahwe. Let me briefly read his profile as well. He was born in Tumahole near Paris in the 60s, and he attended primary school in Tumahole Residential at Sebokeng. And during those times, also because of those current political conditions, he was influenced to join the Tumahole Student Congress. He is a graduate of chemical engineering from the Vaal University, and he holds about 2 other degrees from the University of South Africa and the University of the Free State. And he received an honorary doctorate from the University of from the Vaal University as well. He received it from the Vaal University as well. And my last speaker or last guest is Mr. Monaheng Mshweshwe, who is a senior mandate officer or producer at the Lesedi FM, which is our radio station that is broadcasting in Sesotho in the Free State Province. He's also here tonight to grace us with his presence, and he'll be one of our panelists. Once again, let me greet you and welcome you all to this panel discussion that will be unfolding tonight. And I think before we proceed to our discussion, since I indicated that we are low on time because our webinar is running for an hour, I would like to give it to our National Young Professionals Chairperson, Mr. Papa Mamandi, to provide a word of support about the activity that we are having this evening. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Special greetings to the MEC for Education, and Tatemaho. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, and Prof as well, Prof Wally Serote, and Mr. Lesedi, as mentioned earlier. Prof, perhaps maybe I should also start with you and say a big thank you. A lot of people here don't know how privileged I am to often run into your path and do work with you around things that empower and develop our nation. And your commitment over the years, and obviously your endless sacrifices, they go unsaid. So we are eternally grateful, Prof. To the MEC, I'm quite excited to see an MEC with a doctorate. It probably is part of the reason why Free State continue to top the matric results in the country. So it's truly a privilege and an honor, sir, to be in your midst. I'm privileged enough to be working with talented people like Mr. Sipe Zenani, who is facilitating tonight's event. I just wanted to say that part of what makes this program very special to us in the BMF Young Professionals is that, amongst other things, we are celebrating our decade anniversary this year, a decade's existence of the Young Professionals cohort of the BMF. And we have taken it upon ourselves to become an important intermediary and facilitator of some of the most important discussions about the future of our young nation. And of course, the fourth industrial revolution is a big matter because it's going to transform everything we know about what we call life. Key to that, however, is the recognition that a lot of our own continue to be left out of support and services. There's a statistic that says 60% of South Africa continues to be left out of basic support and services by any providers of supports and services. And so when we think about the efforts of government to get infrastructure and education out to decentralized and peripheral communities that are outside of our urban centers, we also have to think about what it means to educate for the future of work in the context of the fourth industrial revolution. We know that young South Africans, by the time they reach grade 4, can't read for meaning. And this is a big crisis that we have to avert very soon. The South African Cultural Observatory states that 60% of the jobs that will be needed by 2030 have not been invented yet. And so this is a complexity of convergent challenges that we all have to confront. And we obviously have to bring about a brigade of capable young people who are going to help South Africa pivot into this fourth industrial revolution. In closing, I would just like to cast our eyes back to when the president first announced the national state of disaster, and think about perhaps some of the interventions that were announced and others that could have been announced. And one of my biggest outcries has been the missed opportunity of utilizing the lockdown period as a period for improving literacy. If you think back to the Cuban Revolution and how in 1961, they declared it the year of education, the Fidel Castro government decided to close down all operations for 8 months and send literacy brigades into the community to improve literacy in Cuba by something like 23%, to the point that UNESCO now reports by 2019 that Cuban literacy levels are at 99%. I wonder, MEC, if we couldn't have utilized our young brigades who were employed through the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program to be actual facilitators who could have been deployed in our communities to improve the levels of literacy in our communities, to get the entire family committed to such an important exercise. And I wonder, Prof, if you could reflect on your time, even under the horrible, brutal regime, as to how it is that you guys were able to sustain your commitment to the importance of literacy and being so articulate and becoming these erstwhile scholars that we can now look up to. What is that cardinal message that we can then drink from to inspire us to change the trajectory of the country in terms of literacy, and look forward to bringing about a generation of very literate, very skilled, very agile people who can be very flexible and useful in the fourth industrial revolution. And so I want to pay tribute to Sipe, who is headlining this program, who kicks off the programming of the young professionals for the 2022 calendar. I salute you, my brother, and I wish you well in the deliberations that come. And of course, I look forward to some of the thinking that comes out of this, forming part of our strategy and looking at forging ties with the likes of the Department of Education and in the Free State and other provinces. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, for that nice message of support. I am really inspired to go further. And I think now let's just jump straight into it. And in us jumping straight into it, I have just this spelling question that says that reading and writing have always been attributed to being one of the great contributors to literacy. You know, so I would like to just get your views on that, Prof. Sirote, and you sharing a bit about how do we enhance these in the fourth industrial revolution to ensure that we make them relevant. Because if you can see nowadays, everything that we do is done in a form of a video clip, but behind a video clip, sometimes there's no meaning. So I just want to pick your mind around that.
Thank you very much. When I received the invitation to participate in this webinar, I could not help but to think that here is an opportunity, if we are equipped to deal with it, an opportunity which demands from us that we refuse to be objects of history, that we situate ourselves in our country, on the continent, in the world, and insist that we are masters of history. I say this to address the two very important issues that are part and parcel of the agenda of this webinar. Fourth Industrial Revolution and literacy. Upabama has already woken us up to the fact that the fourth industrial revolution is going to completely transform almost everything that we know to situations which of course, obviously, are going to be challenging, are going to be new to us, are going to provide all kinds of opportunities for qualitative leaps into distances that humankind has not traveled thus far. So that's one part of it. The other part is I'll begin it from where I say I have always known and suspected that multilingualism is a very important weapon for understanding the natural and historical conditions defined by diversity. So that diversity does not threaten us, diversity does not disarm us, but diversity consistently and continuously arms us to want to leap forward. And the first and most important mirror for that, all we need to do is to look at nature, how diverse it is, and because of its diversity, how it is most nourishing, both to our minds, to our spirit, and to our physicality. Having said that, I'd like just to take to relate a short story. Papama knows that for some time we were together doing something called the African Primary Institution, basically meaning the extended family is the foundation, is a primary foundation of Africanness. And therefore, in the context of the 21st century, we have to address it, unpack it, and find a manner then to catapult it to the future. To say, given its strengths, given its diversity, given the demands that it makes on humankind and the demands that it makes on communities and nations, what is it that we should do to keep saying is most empowering? At one point when we were discussing this, we had gathered a lot of, come together with a lot of elders from the Khoisan communities together with their youth. And the first person who stood up to talk said, he refuses to participate in anything where people use cell phones, because these cell phones, he said, have stolen our children, have stolen our youth. Our youth are foreign to us. We don't know what to do. We can no longer talk to them. They talk to this cell phone forever and listen to nothing. As a result, they've been alienated from who they are. We addressed this matter. Long and short of the story is that we then, in the committee where I was sitting, we said, no, let us do this. Let us find a way so that the cell phone speaks Khoisan, one of the Khoisan languages, but also it addresses idioms, because those idioms would become a point of reference of the wisdom, the culture, the being of the Khoisan, if we get it right. And we did that together with some of the elders who were there. And then we went to the bigger group and said, we'd like to this cell phone to speak to you and see if you will hear what it says, but also if you will understand what it says, but also if you will recognize yourselves in what it says. Lo and behold, when it spoke Khoisan, of course, I don't speak Khoisan, so all I could do was to look at reactions of people. You could see that the attitude which that old man had started with, had introduced the discussion through, has completely changed. Now, what is the significance of this? The significance is then, after that, we had to discuss and say, if this was an instrument, or if we accept that this is a small instrument, a minute among many other instruments, which enable us to enter in our own right, in our own culture, in our own languages, into the world, into the universe, into the cosmos. would we say we are beginning to be liberated? Would we say that there is a possibility for fathers, grandfathers, and great-grandfathers to pass knowledge to younger people who are exposed to these things called cell phones and the fourth industrial revolution? The point I'm making here is that the content of the discussion changed and made it possible for us to begin to say, actually, let us discuss what is this thing called fourth industrial revolution, which we discussed, whether we succeeded to put across the possibilities, the opportunities, the springboards which are provided by the fourth industrial revolution is a different story. But the fact of the matter is that we became a community in that hall, which was focusing and wanting to say, what else must we do so that the distant future is not foreign to us? The distant future is actually shaped by who we are. And that, when I saw the title of the webinar, I said to myself, this is, again, this chance for us who are a multilingual language, a multilingual country, for us who live in a very diverse country, for us who come from a extremely oppressive past, a promising future, and also a future which has serious challenges at the present moment for us in South Africa, on the continent, in the diaspora, in the world, within humanity. We then pose the question, are we armed? I was saying to myself when I read the title, we're being asked, are we armed, given everything that we have, that multilingualism, that diversity, that historical experience, that understanding through struggle, that we can never, ever accept to be objects of history. But we do take responsibility and say, we are equipped by our very survival and our very culture and our very history. We are equipped to be masters of history. Let me stop here. That is my introduction to this subject. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Prof. That was indeed a great introduction into this session, and it is highly appreciated, and it's great to see you. When I started, I didn't follow certain protocols. So before we go any further, I would like to acknowledge the leadership of my province, our MENCOM and our PEC. And I would further like to acknowledge the leadership of the Black Management Forum now nationally, across provinces and across different structures and branches. Prof has been hitting a lot on something that is always a matter of contention in the country, which is language. Language is forever an issue around the country. If we are not fighting to ensure that the language policy of a certain place has been changed, we are fighting to ensure that the language is scrapped of a certain curriculum or a certain field of vocation. So I just want to go to my next speaker now, which is a very relevant speaker to help us tackle this issue around language, the Free State MEC of Education, Ntate Magwe. Firstly, Ntate Magwe, again, I want to express my sincere and heartfelt congratulations to you and your entire unit for the excellent leadership that you consistently show when it comes to the delivering of quality and excellent education in this province and ensuring that we are producing one of the best students in the country. MEC, I want to pick your brain and ask that what role is education going to play in the fourth industrial revolution? Because for us to even be able to participate in such, we will need to have a solid conceptual bucket so that we basket them into to go into the fourth industrial revolution.
Thank you very much, Sipe Zanani. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, And I must also thank the chairperson who actually presented his opening remarks, and also the leadership, of course, of the BMF across the board. And I won't be failing. I will be failing if I don't recognize the veteran leadership, Walisi Rute. He's our veteran, and we are happy. And the other panelists, I want to first say that thank you very much, BMF, for inviting us. I must tell you, that it is the first time I participate in the webinar. So if I make mistakes, don't be afraid to get in and say, MEC, you are out of order. Thank you very much. I also looked at the topic, and I asked myself certain questions, and some of the questions indeed include what is the fourth industrial revolution, but also what will define the digital economy. What is a digital era? And in my view, of course, there are many explanations, but in my view, it will be an era that will be underpinned by huge efficiencies. The things that used to take days to be done can now be done in a spare of a moment. So it is an era that as human beings, you must prepare that you can no more have a monopoly of certain skills or certain information for that matter. Maybe relevant to BMF. It may be a skill of maybe a topic such as a business plan. Today we used to go to universities to study a business plan and take time, 3 years and stuff like that. But today you can download a business plan, on Google, or you actually can watch a good presentation from MIT on YouTube and so on. So it's an era that I think there will be huge efficiencies. So it challenges the kind of skills that would actually make us survive that era. It is an era where there will be fusion in terms of technology. You know that the difference between the third industrial revolution and the fourth industrial revolution is really the issue of fusion, where technology can fuse, can come together, can bring the biological aspect of it, can bring the physical aspect of it, and many other aspects. So there's a fusion of technology. So you may be thinking that you know this, only to find that there's also already a technology to deal with some of those challenges. But also that it will be an era that requires special skills to survive. And I think as a Department of Education, this is where we think that we are relevant. Because remember that whatever the economy is, it will be made up of people. Human beings are the most important assets of any country. But human beings must be skilled. You must give them relevant skills to be able to navigate the specific economy, such as today, the digital economy. And you will realize also that in the digital economy, as we talk today, it is underpinned obviously by technology, but there's one thing that I like that we are trying to push in the Department of Education. It's going to be slow, but I think we have started that there's only one language of technology, and that language is called coding. So you'll realize that we have rolled out in some of our schools, working with our private sector partners, we have rolled out technology where we teach our young people to code, right? We are also having robotics competitions where younger ones, especially the primary school ones, are extremely excited because after building a robot and coding it and putting life into it, there's a lot of excitement of them. And of course, we are using current softwares that are available, especially at school level, we are using Scratch as a software. For older students, we are using languages such as Python. But all that, everybody agrees that coding is important, technology is important, but there are certain skills that we must have that would actually make us survive the digital environment. And those skills include, amongst others, critical problem solving. Remember, technology is there to help us resolve a problem. You were raising a problem, for example, now of quality of our teachers, teacher development. Therefore, in the past, we used to run, workshops. In the olden past, people used to go to Soshanguve and then to introduce a topic. But today, because of the benefit of technology, we can now use, Microsoft Teams. In fact, now we are comfortable in our own offices, in our own homes. We are using Zoom, and that shows that technology will actually help us resolve some of the problems. It could have been expensive for us to hold this webinar, but because of technology, it has driven the cost down. But some of the skills that are necessary would be creativity, right? And that is where things like literacy remains extremely important. You have to be creative. You have to be able to think outside the box, because if you actually, in the moment now, especially with BMF and members of or other entrepreneurs, let me not say BMF. Let me talk about entrepreneurs who from time to time go to the bank and say, I've got an idea, but I'm afraid somebody will steal my idea. You must know that, because of technology, your idea, whatever you are thinking about, may have been thought by many other people in the world. It may be online. And these are some of the challenges that says, how do we now go back to creativity? And the veteran is right. If you look at technology now, one of the exciting part about technology in the African context is that most of the technology does not speak our languages in Africa. And therefore, especially here in South Africa. So it's important that as we code, as we build our own Google and so on, those must be able to speak our own languages, so that technology or the fourth industrial revolution can also help us to deal with challenges of unemployment, of inequality, and other social challenges that we have in our country. And also issues of emotional intelligence. But we must also remember that coding is premised on things such as binary mathematics. So the issues of logic, for example, remains very, very important. So logic is extremely important. Binary mathematics itself is important. And that is why our learners must be able to learn mathematics as much as possible. And some of the things that will be important now include the skills that will be important, include things like emotional intelligence, right? Now that we have attained freedom, now that we are diversified communities, we need to be able to be sensitive about the feeling of each other. We must be sensitive and have emotional intelligence. You must know that when we say things, they may land on somebody else differently. And therefore it needs a skill of being able to communicate. It's even worse that with this technology now, we'll also be communicating with people outside our natural borders, people in China, people who've got different cultures and different approaches to life. And all these things should be able to give us a different environment, but also a different opportunities. And lastly, I want to talk about the issue of negotiations as a skill. very, very clearly now. We now see what is happening around the world, the challenges, something is happening way, way, way far from us in Ukraine and Russia, but that is also impacting on our economy here, thousands and thousands of kilometers away from there. So these are some of the things that we think are extremely important. But I also just lastly want to comment on the what was raised by the chairperson, that we must never think that the problems that we are facing will be static, will never be solved. We must be excited that technology is going to increase the issues, including the issues of literacy. You know, you look at young people, they may not be able to read and write yet, but they can be able to interpret and understand the cell phone, the computer, and so on. And therefore, the challenge for us as education is to say, how do we teach them from where they like? If they like working with computers, how do we teach them? How do we make them literate? But starting with what they like and so on. And that is why we are very, very excited in the Department of Education, especially in the Free State, with all the challenges and the opportunities. I know that quite a number of people talks about the challenges of PELS, learners can't read and write within at a particular age, the challenges of SACMEC, where we are the West compared to even poorer countries compared to us, like Swaziland. But we are excited that given the challenges of technology or the opportunities that are brought by technology, we should be able to turn around our situation. So if you ask me, technology and literacy are two sides of the same coin. Thank you very much.
Indeed, MEC, I agree with you a lot on that one, that technology and literacy go together like hand in glove. They go together like hand in glove. And from ever since we started engaging, our Q&A in our chat box has been very busy. And I want to encourage each and every colleague who's tuned in right now to just say that if you have a question, don't hesitate to throw it on the chat box. And if you have an urgent question, even though that one is not always desirable, just raise your hand and then you'll be acknowledged, you'll be recognized, and then you can speak. You can unmute your mic and speak. But I just want to pick two questions from our chat box before I go to my next speaker. And they're directed at the MEC of Education, Tate Mahwe. And the question is that, is the Free State Education amenable to co-funding programs that can be implemented to improve literacy in communities in order to include professionals in communities and contribute to the provincial project? And going to the second question as well, that question came from our Free State Chairperson, Mr. Msebetsi Zaza. And the second question still directed at you, MEC. Now, MEC, actually, I think the people who are attending this session are actually ahead of their time, because even though this technology poses a number of advantages in our lives, or even though literacy now, our literacy about education, our literacy in education is proven quite advantageous. Sometimes a lot of things fall through the cracks. And it leads me to my following question, and it is saying that, what is his views? What is your view about schools using WhatsApp, the WhatsApp platform to communicate with parents? What is your view on that, MEC, especially about issues of homework? How do you communicate homework on WhatsApp? So I think, MEC, you can be able to tackle those questions in your following segment. Otherwise, I just wanted to let you know that our Q&A is very busy right now. It's buzzing. But I want to go to my next speaker before we lose our train of thought here. And I'm not sure, I don't know how language ended up becoming a golden thread in this conversation, but it still has to do with language. And I want to pose it to Ntate Mushwesh from Listed FM. He's the Senior mandate producer of Lesedi FM, our local radio station here that broadcasts in Sesotho. And it says that, what is the role that you are playing as the SABC when it comes to promoting and advancing literacy in the Free State Province? I have seen your programs of education, but I need to know what is the role you are playing in the Free State Province?
Can you see me well? Oh, I need to adjust. Can you hear me, Mr. Sipe?
Yes, sir, loud and clear.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for the question that you posed. But first, I would like to thank Dr. Tate and also Professor for the words of the encouragement. How did they portray things? And as much as you said, maybe speaking in terms of all of us as maybe SABC in terms of promoting literacy in Free State, I would like to first to start with what we call a language. When we talk about a language, we talk about the vehicle of the meaning. So for us, for people, in order to understand what we are saying to them, we have to serve the message in the language that they understand. That's the important thing. And as SABC, you know, SABC is a public broadcaster, which is guided by ICASA and also other broadcasting acts. And then for us, language is very important to us as SABC because we have over 18 radio stations, 5 television channels, and all that radio stations, they broadcast in one of our 11 official languages. It means us as SABC, we really care about people, teaching people using their own language. And coming to the point of that you ask in terms of literacy. Literacy starts with us. Remember, as SABC, it's a big corporation. It has different divisions. And when you divide that divisions, you will end up having what we call SABC education. And SABC education, as I said, it's in all radio stations of SABC. It's part of division that stands on its own. And what it covers, it covers educational programs aiming to uplift our people in terms of the literacy. It not only caters for maybe from children, it caters to everyone, from formal education to adult education, and also a public education. That's why it's very important. And then also, as Lesedi FM, we are a Sesotho radio station, and a remote local. So what we have to do in terms of again improving the literacy, the programs, as you said, there are a lot of programs that we partner with different organizations, and also maybe the thing that I can say is Department of Education, because if you can listen right now, maybe at our radio station, Lesedi FM, maybe on a weekly basis in Reakubeleza, we have the slot there that is called Learner Support, Sikokotlelo. So it basically deals with the programs that supports the education in schools, and we have partnered with a Department of Basic Education, not only here in Free State and also in Gauteng. And in terms of when it comes to literacy, literacy is being able to maybe they will say how to read and write. Yeah, that's how they will basically put it. But now I'm saying, okay, if we know how to read and write, what is the meaning of those how to read and write? So a person has to understand what is being said to them in order maybe to impart it, maybe to have the knowledge around it. So here at Lesedi FM, we do that in occasion. Let's say not occasionally basis. We do that every day. And in terms of now looking at a fourth industrial revolution, then it means we have to change how we used to do things, because right now, as you know, that we have changed from being, it was maybe using those older frequency FM and AM. So now we are on digital terrestrial. That's where you will get us from. That's when we're always encouraging our people, even if you can listen to our ads, they will always tell the people, maybe if you are earning under 3.5, go to your post office and get your set box. So because right now we are trying to change to the digital world. And by changing to the digital world, we not only have to teach our people about literacy. That literacy is going to help them to maneuver those devices that comes with technology. So it is very important for us to teach our people the literacy. Maybe I will say digital literacy. Now maybe schools have to adopt more on, say, now we are not talking about only literacy. Now we have to talk about digital literacy bounded with technology. So it is very important from our side to emphasize on educating our masses, not only here in Free State, because the CDFM is a national radio station. Everyone who can understand Sesotho, we are the custodians to them to teach them more about literacy, because I will say literacy is life for a lot of people, because nowadays you cannot do anything if you are not literate. Everything that you read, the contract that you sign, maybe going to the interview, we have to have something being guided by literacy. But again, as much as we are talking with in terms of maybe fourth industrial revolution, again, us as SABC, we have to teach our people, the listeners, that not everything is good about. There are the challenges that comes with a fourth industrial revolution in terms of maybe your social medias. There are a lot of things. How we have what we say, maybe the cyberbullying, and we gotta have a way to deal with those things. That's why maybe our listeners maybe will come with a slot maybe that will deal with cyberbullying, because there are a lot of things, bad things that have been said. Maybe it might be trolling. Maybe other people has maybe end up committing suicide because of the cyberbullying, of the technology that we love, so it is very important. And looking again, maybe in terms of social media, we have what we now standard is trending is maybe TikTok. What is the importance of maybe those to us? Are we using those in a rightful manner, in a right way? Or are we just using them maybe for fun or maybe to mock? Because as much as maybe they will say maybe TikTok comes from China. What did they do that maybe in China? Because China is one of those countries who maybe has censorship, a lot of things in terms of the media. But if they can maybe allow TikTok, why did they allow it? Maybe they allow it so it can contribute positively to them. But maybe when you're looking at our side, maybe it's all about fun stuff. It's all about maybe mocking. So those are the things that us as SABC, we need to teach people to nation building. We have to come together. We have to be one. And literacy, it's a way of getting us there. And I will go more, but I will come back again, our speaker, so you can carry through.
I love how you keep hitting on literacy and its various aspects. And in its general sense, literacy is basically how you get to interact with the world and how you understand it using different forms of understanding, either by reading, listening, watching, speaking. It differs or varies according to platform. So one thing that you keep hitting on is that, yes, indeed, within this fourth industrial revolution, we are in an information revolution whereby information is on your face. So it's up to you if you get it or you don't get it. So I just want to pose a question at Professor Serote and say that, Prof, each and every person right now, because of the fourth industrial revolution and accessibility of information in its tons and bundles, everyone believes that they have the know-how of almost each and everything now. They believe that they have the know-how. And having watched you, I know that I might be taking a bit long to get to my question, but having watched you and listening to some of the things you have said, at some point you were quoted saying that during your times or in your youthly days, you could have chosen to write about love or romance when it comes to your poetry, but you chose to write about politics because you knew at that time that everything that you do had to be directed at something. For example, us as the BMF, we stand for socio-economic transformation right now. So everything that we do has to be aligned with that. So I just want to know, how can we ensure that people are exposed to the right type of literacy? And how can we ensure that we help people to avoid providing advice on subjects that they do not have expertise from? For example, nowadays, when you go on these social medias or on these TikToks, or when you read some books, because somebody has spoken to a psychologist, they end up finding themselves in a position whereby they can provide psychological advice or a doctor's type of advice without being qualified to provide that. I'm not sure if you managed to capture my question, Prof. Prof? It seems as though we have lost Prof. It seems as though we have lost.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Prof.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you very much. I was saying that my introduction deliberately was about what is it that we as a people must do to ensure that at all times, all given times, we become masters of history. And that is still the manner in which I should respond to your question. There is objective reality before us as a people collectively, but also there is a reality that we are in a context of the world which has done all kinds of things which impact on us and we impact on them. So what is it that we should do to ensure that at all times citizens of our country are deeply equipped to understand their own objective reality and the objective reality of the world from a point of view which says there is no way that as a people we must be objects of history. In other words, there is no way that we will agree that history tells us and controls us and we are helpless before it. So the question that you are raising is this: what is it that we should be doing as a people? And I'm very glad that the MEC for Education is here, and having listened to him, one feels most hopeful that this issue that I'm raising is part and parcel of his thought. You know, we are sharing this thing. What is it that we should do so that our past is studied, is understood, and is asked, how do you create a qualitative leap for us, given our objective reality now? Because if you pose the question like that, then you are demanding that a people must never ever take knowledge for granted, must always ensure that they're equipped properly with knowledge, and that they have fathomed the depths of the meanings of that knowledge to use them. So you will not have fly-by-night psychologists or psychiatrists. What is it that we should ensure this? Earlier on, when I can't remember whether it was you, I think maybe it was Papama or you who raised this very crucial point. And the MEC also raised the point. We are faced with children and youth who have entered the world space. They read, but they don't understand. This is a question that you are raising, Chairperson. What does that mean? What should we do to break down the barriers that they're experiencing? What must we do so that they feel as part and parcel of solutions of whatever issues face them? And therefore, what must we do so that they are always thirsty for knowledge and for understanding that knowledge? This is the challenge that we're facing. It's not only in South Africa. I think it's the 1.5 billion Africans on the continent, and the other millions Africans in the diaspora. But as you know, Europe, the US consider themselves as the point of reference of life, which we must challenge. That cannot be accepted. And therefore also it is, the question that you are raising is, are we equipped to form proper alliances, given the challenges that the world is putting before us? So I would end there and say I've looked at it from as we are talking from a multifaceted position. That when we say we are educating, the reference point is multifaceted, especially now when we're talking about industrial revolution and when we are raising the question of literacy. There is something wrong if children of a nation can read and not read and not understand what they are reading, and therefore be completely chained to ignorance. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you very much for those viewpoints, Prof. And indeed, I think the simplest way of putting it is that when you are entering a space of literacy, what are your politics? Not in the general sense of the politics, but what are your politics? What are you trying to fight, or what are you trying to achieve? Because I'm sure that each and everyone who is currently seeing the spaces in which we go and consume information nowadays, you find out that the content that is being shared is not really, some of it, I don't want to dismiss all of it and say that people are not sharing meaningful content, but sometimes it is not one that is geared towards nation building or towards advancing transformation, because we're in the PMF, we are agents of transformation in most cases. So we always try by all means to align our actions to achieving transformation, either through such platforms where we are talking to knowledgeable individuals, or when we are talking to expert individuals. So I just want to know from Dr. Mushweshwe that what are the precautions or what are the measures that as a media entity they are taking to ensure that the information or the literacy that many people are consuming out there can be eventually translated into programs that will help us to champion socio-economic transformation in the fourth industrial revolution. I'm not sure if my question is clear for you, Dr. Mushweshwe. But equally, I also want to acknowledge that there are questions in our chat box, and this question fortunately is aligned to the work of the SAPC, and it is asking, does the SAPC still have physical studios, or do they have any plans for virtual broadcasting platforms? No, I will not answer that one for you, Ntate Moha. I will please tackle that one as well.
Okay. Okay, sir, I will just take that one. Yes, I would like to answer the question of are we still having a physical studios? Yes, we still have the physical studios because we know we really need those studios in order to broadcast. And also when it comes to the issue of visually, you know, I think it was maybe last year, SABC introduced what we call Telcom One. Then those on Telcom One, maybe it's our live streaming, then it means in terms of a visual broadcasting, it is coming because now you can see our different radio stations during maybe a live broadcasting of a show. You will see the presenter maybe being live all the time, and maybe on social media, on our website, different digital platforms. So we still want to keep the studios because we know we need studios. We can't say we will run away from a fact like now we are going, we will change in a day, but it will take time for us to adapt to the new changes. But as I said, we are moving there in the right direction. And coming to the question of Mr. Issue of what I said, maybe in terms of issue of literacy, those you talked about important thing. How will those impact what people are saying out there into our programs? What I can say from you is that we do listen, or we do go out, we do a research. When we do a programs in terms of looking at SABC education, we are not just doing it for sake of fun, because as I started, I said SABC, its mandate is to inform, is to entertain and educate. And information, when we say is to inform, we have to provide information. Maybe you might say in terms of news, current affairs, those things, and entertain. We will come in terms of SOP, different dramas on television, on radio. Issue of maybe when it comes to issue education, that's when we'll come to the programs that will serve our nation with. So in terms of literacy, we are doing what we can and using the languages that the people understand. I don't know if you can have a time, you can go to maybe listen to SKFM. SKFM is for Khoi languages. So it means as we are trying to bridge the gap, because you know, in terms of literacy, we have to look another thing as equality. Equality lies there, because when you look at a fourth industrial revolution, they will say who are those benefiting more. Those who are benefiting more are the ones who have access to these digital platforms. They are the gainers, they are more gainers. And those maybe from rural areas or those who are poor are being left behind. And what we are doing is that we are trying to improve the situation of those who are being left behind, and give them knowledge and the programs that will help them to uplift them in order not to be left behind, in order to be in the same way as those who are already there. Because if maybe we can say we are moving fast with those who already have those digital access, or maybe they are already at fourth industrial revolution, then we're gonna lose maybe our people, because we know as maybe as a country also, we are still in, they call us the third world. And you know, again, as maybe Africa, so we are the biggest consumers maybe of the mobile phones. And the question that you'll always ask yourself is that if maybe in Africa we are consuming so much mobile phones, what about our languages? Because if maybe you can get them maybe at Google Translation, some of those languages of our language from African language are being left behind. So us as SABC and us as the radios, we have to give those languages alive in terms of literacy. We have to make sure that our mandate is to protect the cultural identity of the people, and also to provide diversity, and also maybe using literacy to ensure a human dignity and a nation building. So we do listen to the people, what they are saying, and the programs that we are doing the programs for the people, not for us as a SABC, for our people to know more. As much as I'm saying, we partnered with different organizations, even maybe Department of Education. That's why we called SABC Education, because we are trying to bridge the gap from those who can have access to what others have. Because if now, as much as a prof said, if we are having our children who now can access the devices, your cell phones, but maybe the knowledge of literacy is not there, how are we gatekeeping them? How are we controlling the information that we send to them? The information that will teach them, like, no, let's take this way, let's not take this route. Because right now, they are imparting everything that they're getting from the media. They are imparting everything that they're getting from social media. How do you make a correct assumption and say, this is a correct information, this is not correct information? But having us as a radio, we are making sure that whatever we are giving them, and the guests that will come with their different languages and different slots, they are the knowledgeable guests that can be trusted. Thank you very much, Mr. Zinani.
Thank you very much, Tate Moshwesho, for those insights. You know, let me just apologize to whoever might have expected to come here and hear us talking about digital ownership of land, you know, because those are the things that are currently happening on the ground now, whereby people are becoming virtual land owners, and they are just doing some amazing things with technology. But like you're saying, that we are a third world country. And in us being a third world country, there are still a couple of things that we need to grapple with, such as having people to read with understanding. And with people reading with understanding, that needs some serious collaborative effort. You know, it also takes some social responsibility from us as other people now who are not really entrusted with power, and be the ones who are going to come up with policies for ensuring that literacy indeed takes place. Because what Upapama spoke about earlier, about the Cuban literacy revolution, he did say that a couple of other things in the country were closed for a period of 8 months. So I do see that we will never be able to get to a point whereby we put the country on lockdown so that each and everybody can read, whereby we'll make people read 52 books in a year. But MEC, I feel like your presence here has sparked a lot of I don't want to say excitement, but a lot of discussion around education. So I think I would love to allow you to tackle those two questions that were posed earlier. And I also saw another question in the chat that was asking, is the Department of Free State Education ready to provide funding support to students or potential students who want to study robotics and specifically IT or information or informatics and all these technologically related careers? And I think on top of that, MEC, is that I feel like as a Department of Education, we are also at a point in time by now we should be using this technology to understand, are we preparing or funding students who are going to be relevant in the world of work? Because the world of work is changing almost every second now. It's no longer changing daily, it's changing almost every second. You might find someone now who's responsible for information technology, only to find out that tomorrow it won't. So how are we catching up with those? And to just refresh your memory about the first questions that were posed, MEC, it was to say that, is the Free State Department of Education amenable to co-funding programs that can be implemented to improve literacy in communities in order to include professionals. For example, right now you are having people who are being called education assistants. And I think, I'm not sure why, but as an agent of socio-economic transformation, it would also be important to get your assistants about understanding their role within the education space, and how can you also use them to take the fourth industrial revolution ahead. But I think this question, you can be able to cover it, because it's just asking, is the Free State Department of Education in a position to provide funding support to entities that want to improve literacy within communities? Because I think that we even as the Department of Education, you can't be reaching to all of the communities around the country. And the second question was that, what are your views around schools communicating crucial aspects of the children's learning via WhatsApp? Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, MEC. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Program Director Sipe. There's quite a number of questions that we have asked, but I'm going to try and, given the remaining time, try to answer all of them. Let me start first by the issue of what I call here the culture of reading. One of the biggest problems that we obviously have as a society is that, and I'm sure the veteran would actually agree, that, in our communities, we don't have the culture of reading the way it was before. I think the culture of reading has gone a little bit down, and one of the main contributors, obviously, is the issue of the social media, because people like snippets. They like reading a quick thing. So and so has not done this, and so on and so on. People bagata di rata, shortcuts. And I think this issue of reading and writing campaign, not only is it going to help us to re-inculcate that culture, but it is important to re-inculcate that culture not only amongst the learners at school, but also amongst older people. You see that they make a joke that even when the shopping malls were being attacked, one of the safest company that survived was the exclusive books, because nobody went in there to go and take the books for themselves. So we need to be able to go back, whether we read a book in terms of a normal book as we know it, or read it online, whatever. But I think it is important to re-inculcate the culture of reading. And I'm pretty excited that you as young professionals are very, very much interested in these issues of literacy, because a reading mind develops. The more you read, the better you become, and I think this is what everybody in our society must know. So I think we can agree with BMF to say, how can we bring back the culture of reading? How can we bring back the culture of reading biographies? Even if you want to be a teacher, you want to read a biography of a good teacher. If you want to be a teacher or a politician, you want to go and read the biography of Oliver Tambo, for example, or Nelson Mandela, or whoever it may be. People who are actually, you will learn a lot about things that happened before when you were not there, because that's what reading would actually bring to ourselves. And the second issue about education assistance, this is a very good program. In the province of the Free State, we insisted that our education assistants must be those with qualifications. And if you go to our schools today, you'll realize that, in fact, agri qualifications are mean degrees. We actually insisted that they must have at least a degree or a diploma, right? So remember, the requirement was saying grade 12. And then we insisted in the Free State that to deviate from that, to say, let's focus on those who did who's got at least a diploma or a degree. And if you go to our schools now and go see the program of reading, you'll see that those education assistants are actually supporting a lot in terms of supporting our teachers to make sure even those slower learners are given support in terms of reading. And you can go in all our schools, you'll find that this is one of the most successful programs. And then I must agree with SABC. And I must say it because many people think that there was a magic in terms of turning around the results of the Free State. One of the biggest contributor was Lesedi FM. Because there was a time when we were not doing well with our education system around the 2010s, thereabout. And one of the things that we identified was the issue that our learners were not taking their language serious. Sometimes we were able to pick up mathematics and you will find that they get 5 distinctions, they never got 7 level 7s. And then we consciously went to speak to Lesedi and said, let's promote the language Sesotho. Our subject advisors here sat with the leadership of Lesedi, identified the topical issues. Today, as I'm talking, I'm very, very proud that many of our learners are getting 7 level 7s. And I'm talking about learners from the township schools, from the rural areas of Tabancho and Kwako. So the issue of language has brought so much confidence that they can tackle other languages because now they can read, proper, generous, proper book in Sesotho. And if they can finish a book in Sesotho of 300 pages, then it's very, very easy for them to finish a book of 300 pages in English. And Sesotho, Lesedi has played a crucial role in turning around our results, especially during the COVID-19. They played a very, very crucial role because, including community radio stations, I must not leave them out, community radio stations, because we asked them and we were teaching from some of those community radio stations. And then the issue of co-funding, I must just say that we in the Free State have got an extremely small budget. And one of the reasons why we have been successful was because we used co-funding. We went out to friends who came out to help us. I'm sure many of you have heard about Shanduka. We went out there. Shanduka was building schools in Limpopo. We went to them and said, look, we want you to help us with mathematics and so on. And they came to support us. This webinar is not Lesedi. I can also mention that companies such as Investec, we went on rent-to-rent basis, and we organized a huge mathematics, Uwartambo Mathematics Center in Kwakwa. It's producing 100% mathematics and 100% physical science students. We have just started it now, I think 2 years ago, in Lejwaliputswa, with a partnership with Harmony. So we love partnerships because we don't have enough money. You would have realized that one of my qualifications was in finance. So I know leverage. So we use this. I always say this partnership helps us leverage. We can, with our 1 rand, we can achieve something that would cost us 3 rands. So if there is a proposal like that, we will be very, very happy to listen to the proposal and then actually activating it and making sure that it starts. And we also want solutions from young people. We don't want you to complain that old people are bringing us solutions every time. You are young, you know the environment better than us. The future belongs to you. So help us to prepare that future even better. And working together with you, we should be able to do so. And then on the question that was around the issues of WhatsApp, I must mention, and everybody knows that there are risks associated with with fourth industrial revolution technology has got a huge risks, fake news amongst them, non-academic articles that would actually be published there. You also have got issues such as fraud and so on and so on. But I can tell you that if it was not of WhatsApp, I don't think that our results in the townships would have been what they became in the past in the past academic year, 2021, because we had to use everything we had. And WhatsApp, the good thing about WhatsApp is that a teacher could solve a problem, a mathematical problem, step by step, and take a photo and send a WhatsApp to the kids wherever they are, and they can be able to start communicating. So we have used WhatsApp effectively in the Free State to prepare the results that we have seen. And I accept that there are challenges, as I said, in terms of risks associated with WhatsApp. But I don't think there's anything wrong if a school sends communication through WhatsApp. Schools such as St. Michael here in Bloemfontein, they do that regularly. They send through emails, and I think schools must use technology for the right reasons, because the truth of the matter is that yes, technology has got those challenges, but you can also use it for the right reasons. In terms of the funding for people who want to do various subjects, some years ago, I think it was 2013 or 2014, we went to a country called Turkey, and we learned a lot about what is called mechatronics engineering. And then you would have realized that many of our students that we took overseas started doing mechatronics engineering. And this is a blending of mechanical engineering, electronics engineering, electrical engineering, and software, right? And if you look at the things like the drones now, this is mechatronic engineering in action. If you look at things like smart TV, this is mechatronics in action. And then we realized that they also have got very good programs here in South Africa. University of Cape Town, Wits, and all other universities that do engineering have got these degrees. So indeed, we do give bursaries to students who want to do this kind of skills. And not only that, once they've completed, we actually give them a chance for an internship in the provincial government. I've got quite a number of them working in my engineering section in the Department of Education. And that is why if you look at the spending, if you can compare the spending of infrastructure in all the provinces, you'll see that the Free State is leading, because we actually took these young people from China, from Turkey, from South Africa, from everywhere else. And a couple of them, few of them coming from Rwanda, because we did not leave out the African continent also. They work together in teams, and they've been able to bring very fascinating solutions, especially around solutions of water, and so on and so on and so on. And that is why if you listen to the complaints, and we have also eliminated the pit latrines in the Free State. We have eliminated them. So that is why when we have a lot of complaints, it's complaints about other things other than issues of infrastructure. But yes, I must also concede that in terms of infrastructure in old townships, you still have old schools that need to be revitalized and stuff like that. Chairperson, I see you coming. I don't know whether you say I'm taking too much time. Let me summarize one way. In terms of literacy, right? We've got a program in the Department of Education, and one of the programs, veteran, is to check the profile of our teachers, to check whether we've got the best teachers for primary schools. And one of the mistakes that has been happening in our country is that we thought that primary schools is lower, therefore we've been putting some of the worst teachers to go and teach primary schools. We are changing that in the province of the Free State. We must also mention that we are having a huge program where we want to involve the parents so that especially children who are in the foundation phase. We learned this program from Cuba. They call it Educate Your Child, where even pregnant women are called in a meeting. They're trained how to support their children in terms of literacy, in terms of numeracy, and so on. And the last one that I wanted to mention is the issue of partnerships. I think I've mentioned a lot that we do use partnerships. We're working with quite a number of partners that I've already mentioned. But the key one also in terms of reading is what we call reading across the curriculum. Because you see, sometimes children are made to read only in English class. But if you make them read in English class, in geography class, in history class, and so on, they become sharper as time goes on. And we believe that this mockery that South African children can't read for meaning at age 10, I really think that we should be able to achieve our targets by the year 2030. Even though the trajectory because of COVID shows us that we have had learning losses over the past 2 years, but we have developed a program to catch up with those learning losses. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me stop it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MEC. We appreciate your insights and your contributions to this session. Now, in the interest of time, I would have really, as the BMF, would have really loved to get extra time with each and every of our speakers to understand deeply the role that in their different spaces they are playing to ensure that literacy and the fourth industrial revolution do not become enemies to each other, or they are, they have a good relationship with each other. But right now, I would like to give each and every of our panelists a minute to just tell us in their different spaces what role or partnership or different types of partnerships can the BMF come and play in their spaces in ensuring that we are driving this literacy project within the fourth industrial revolution, because we do have a number of professionals who are willing to assist. I will start with you, Prof. Seruti.
Thank you, Sipe. 2 years ago, I was bestowed with the responsibility to become the National Poet Laureate. And I said to myself, the first and most important question that I must answer, given the challenges of our country, is how does a National Poet Laureate address the question of diversity in our nation? I remember that whenever you talk about the arts, they are diverse. There is 7 art forms. You have music, dance, theater, film, photography, literature, and so on. But also you have heritage sites, which especially were created in the new dispensation. So the question that I ask myself is, how do we partner with different art form makers, with poetry, with different heritage sites being important in terms of bestowing the history of our country. So I'm experimenting on this. We made a lot of, we took a lot of advantage in terms of the COVID-19 and said, we are going to use all the social media, starting with websites. So you find somebody doing poetry, but that poetry is in the context of theater, so it is acted out. And you find that it is backed up by a dance art form. It is also backed up by film. It is also backed up by photography. And then we take that and put it on the social media. There's a lot of that experiment that we've done through YouTube, through other forms of social media. I take the cue from the MEC about this question of partnership, because when we started doing that in terms of partnership in the arts, we were stretching the funds that we had in a very dangerous way. And therefore, this year, as we're starting, we're saying, it will be important not only to depend on government in terms of funding. What is it that we should do to also go into the private sector? But also, what is it that we should do to find a way for communities to support materially this venture, where you say, here is a diversity of art forms, here is the diversity of our nature, here is a diversity of nature itself. If you go to different provinces, you find different types of plant systems, as an example. But also, if you go to the different provinces, you find different types of heritage sites. In KwaZulu-Natal, you'll find the Lutudi Museum, and you'll find Dube's Museum, and so on in different parts of the country. In Gauteng here, you have Freedom Park or Apartheid Museum, and so on. How do we engage all of these things which have already been created? And how do we engage the creativity of the people in the arts to talk to the question of the diversity of our country, so that this diversity talks to each other, but talks from a national point of view? So that is the experiment now that will take on as the dark cloud of the COVID-19 clears, because we will now move out of just video onto stage. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much for those insights. And I'm sorry to be selfish, but I'll have to jump the MEC of Education, because I do believe that through his talk earlier, he was able to sort of give us a few pointers as to how the BMF and these professionals will be able to participate and partner with these departments in ensuring that literacy is indeed advanced. So I will just go to Ndate Mushweshwe for him to give us his word on how can the BMF partner with the SABC in ensuring that we indeed reach out to the communities and use our expertise in driving literacy in the fourth industrial revolution. And then after that, I will soon give to the chairperson of the Free State Province, Mr. Mseletsi Dladla, as soon as Ndate Mushweshwe concludes, so that Ndate Dladla can give us a vote of thanks and close this auspicious gathering. Thank you. Ndate Mushweshwe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sipe, on our comment section, but I would like to say I've seen some important statement there in terms of how are we catering as SABC for learners with disability. So here we have a different slot at the CDFM that talks about the needs of special learners. And I think we can improve more in terms of as technology is coming in and looking at the ways of supporting those learners who are maybe disabled. Yeah. Okay. In coming to the issue of you, Mr. Sip, how can your partners partner with us as SABC? There are a lot of ways that you can partner with us because making a typical example, I think it was this last month, we went on a roadshow as SABC Education. It was, I think it was World Read Aloud Day. Emphasizes it was on the importance of reading aloud, which means it was more on literacy. Maybe on those roadshows, maybe as BFM, you can also there be available when we engage with different learners going to different schools, and also maybe again, in terms of motivating them, telling them about the importance of literacy, because as Dr. Mako said, looking in terms of the language, if the literacy is very important, if it starts with us, if they can understand their language, then it means it's easier for them to tackle other languages. And also maybe in our programs, maybe there's a slot maybe that you can buy, maybe do a partnership in terms of literacy for business. We know we want our people to grow. And again, when we talk about literacy for the business, as a business, maybe you understand what I'm meaning when I say literacy for business, because right now, as much as we are going into a fourth industrial revolution, we are already there. We need the professionals that will come uplift those small entrepreneurs that will come and say, man, this is how we do a business. This is how you communicate in terms of literacy for business. And also maybe the workshops, looking at those special days that we have. Maybe it was maybe last month was in mother tongue language. Those are those events that we can come up, partner with us, and push furthermore the issue of literacy. And again, it's a different radio. We know we are different radio station. We have caters in terms of different languages. Then any SABC radio station that you can buy, it is very important, as long as we know what we are doing and we are pushing this thing of literacy going forward, because it is very important, this issue, because if our people are not literate enough, they cannot live in harmony, because in order to live in harmony, we have to be able to communicate with different people, maybe at different languages. But I would like to stop there in terms of, the workshops, the conferences, find the programs, go into the careers exhibitions. Those are the things that we can explore and to benefit our people. Thank you very much, Mr. Sip.
Dr. Gaza, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the Young Professionals of the BMF. I think on behalf of the BMF mother body, we are quite excited and quite proud that our young professionals are beginning to take on the baton and move forward. We would also want to appreciate and thank Professor Serote, Dr. Mahwe, as well as Ntate Moshweshwe for gracing this webinar. Literacy is quite important for us as the BMF, as change agents. Over years, we realized that we focus much on the economic transformation and not the social aspect. And education becomes the key aspect around the social environment in our communities. We are looking forward as the BMF to contribute to this critical national project, especially around literacy. Our approach would be to sit with both the stakeholders we have here. I'm aware that at national level, Ubabu Papama is already working with Professor Serote, which is good for us. At the provincial level, with both the SABC as well as the Department of Education, we are looking at programs where we can partner, competitions such as the great debaters, to allow debating teams to be there across the different languages, and see how we can partner with that as BMF and source funds for such projects to happen. The spelling competition for young kids at primary schools, that equally assists a lot with literacy. I know many years back, as a beneficiary of the education in the Free State, the department used to have what they call the CIREC, that used to create such competitions. So those are bodies within the education department who would be looking at partnering with as the BMF. Just to use the expertise and the knowledge that is there within our professionals, our managers and executives to contribute in our communities. Education is not only for Department of Education, but it is for the entire communities where we come from. And if we are to make a dent on economic transformation, there will be really a need for us as the BMF to look and play a role in the education of our children, especially the Black children. And I believe members in BMF can serve as a good motivation in assisting with that. About a month back, we had a discussion with the MEC where we're discussing the issue of BMF members contributing in school governing bodies. We create managers that understand governance, but we need to see that our quintile 1, 2, and 3 schools are there and having proper professionals that can sit in those schools, be part of the governing bodies, even if your kids are not going there. Your siblings, your aunt, your family members, and your extended family members' kids are attending those schools. So we implore BMF members to be those change agents with the Department of Education to say, let's contribute, let's be able to help those schools. Those schools equally at some point will require to raise and find funds for co-funding. BMF members are capable of sourcing such. And we would ask, as we spoke with the MEC, we want to participate as the BMF. We want to assist, especially when it comes to governance, when it comes to providing resources, especially on the literacy program in the country. It is of paramount importance and it is very much key for us. We would knock at the SABC. We have clear programs that we saw gaps on that we are currently looking at to say, let's implement this to continuously also provide literacy within our communities, within areas which most of our people would not have been privy to, areas such as business management, executive development. Let's have roles that we discuss these things and what a good and effective manager looks like. That is what is important to educate our people so that when they interface with managers, whether they're in private sector or in government, they at least know what is expected from the person that they interface with. As the BMF would be very much interested in that. And to conclude this, as my task is very simple, is to thank our panel for being available and supporting this program. Beyond this, you would see the young professional team within the BMF coming to strengthen these relationships and see areas of engagement where we can work together. With those few words, I would like to thank the facilitator of the session for doing such a great job and being able to convene this webinar today. Thank you very much for your attendance and all our audience and guests for being of such a wonderful and interactive audience. Thank you very much.